I've spent the last 3 months traveling between Malaysia and Thailand, and what I discovered completely shattered everything I thought I knew about Southeast Asia. Everyone keeps saying these two countries are basically the same, right? Tropical beaches, amazing food, friendly people, affordable living. But after visiting 47 cities, trying hundreds of street food stalls, and spending over $10,000 testing everything from accommodation to transportation to entertainment, I can tell you with absolute certainty that one of these countries is so dramatically different from the other that it's almost shocking they're even compared. And the winner? Well, it's not what 90% of travel influencers are telling you. Let me start with something that happened to me in Kuala Lumpur that would never, and I mean never, happen in Bangkok. I was sitting at a mamak stall at 2 in the morning, completely jet-lagged, trying to figure out how to order roti canai without butchering the pronunciation. The guy next to me, without me even asking, turned to me and said in perfect English that I should try the roti telur bawang with dal curry on the side. Then he proceeded to order for me, taught me how to eat it properly with my hands, and refused to let me pay for his meal when I offered. This wasn't a one-time thing. This happened repeatedly throughout Malaysia in ways that just hit differently than my experiences elsewhere. But here's where it gets interesting, because Thailand has its own version of hospitality that's actually more famous worldwide, and yet something about the Malaysian approach felt more genuine in a way I couldn't quite put my finger on at first. The food comparison is where things start getting really controversial, and I know I'm about to upset a lot of people here. Thailand has some of the most famous cuisine in the world. Pad Thai, green curry, tom yum, mango sticky rice. These are dishes that have conquered the planet. There are Thai restaurants in literally every major city on Earth. So you'd think Thailand would win the food category hands down, right? Wrong. And here's why this matters more than you think. In Thailand, you'll find incredibly delicious food, absolutely no question about it. But in Malaysia, you don't just find one type of cuisine. You find Malay food, Chinese food, Indian food, Peranakan food, and about 17 hybrid fusion styles that don't exist anywhere else on the planet. I'm talking about nasi lemak for breakfast, char kway teow for lunch, banana leaf rice for dinner, and sendal for dessert. All in one day. All phenomenally good. All absurdly cheap. I spent 2 weeks eating nothing but local food in both countries, tracking every single meal, and here's what shocked me. In Thailand, I found myself eating the same 5 or 6 dishes repeatedly because those were the standouts. In Malaysia, I ate something completely different every single day and never once thought any meal was just okay. Everything was exceptional. That diversity is something Thailand simply cannot match because of how Malaysia's history created this perfect storm of culinary fusion. But wait, because the food story gets even crazier when you look at the prices. I bought a full chicken rice meal in Ipoh for 4 ringgit. That's less than $1. A complete meal. With soup. And a drink if you're friendly with the owner. In Bangkok, that same meal would cost you at minimum 60 baht, which is almost $2. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's just one example, but I documented over 200 meals across both countries, and Malaysia was consistently 30 to 40% cheaper for equivalent quality food. The only exception was tourist trap areas, but even those were less expensive in Malaysia than Thailand's tourist zones. And there's a specific economic reason for this price difference that nobody talks about, which completely changes how you should think about traveling to either country. Transportation is where my mind was completely blown, and this is going to sound insane, but hear me out. Thailand has better roads. Their highways are smoother, their infrastructure is more developed, and getting around by car is generally easier. Everyone knows this. So Thailand wins transportation, case closed, right? Not even close. Malaysia has something that Thailand doesn't have and probably won't have for another decade. The public transportation in Malaysia's major cities is so far ahead of Thailand it's not even a competition. The MRT in Kuala Lumpur is cleaner, faster, more extensive, and cheaper than Bangkok's BTS and MRT combined. I could get from one end of KL to the other for less than 2 ringgit. The trains came every 3 minutes. Every single station had working air conditioning. Every platform was spotless. In Bangkok, the BTS is good, don't get me wrong, but it's expensive by local standards, it doesn't cover nearly as much of the city, and the connections between different lines are sometimes absurdly complicated. I once spent 20 minutes trying to figure out how to transfer from the MRT to the BTS at one station because the systems are run by different companies and don't integrate well. In Kuala Lumpur, everything just works seamlessly. One card, one system, complete coverage. And this matters because it completely changes how you experience each city. In Bangkok, you're probably going to end up taking Grab or taxis a lot, which adds up fast. In KL, you can genuinely get anywhere you need to go on public transport for pocket change. But here's the thing that nobody mentions, and this is crucial. Thailand is more spread out in terms of tourist attractions. The beaches are in the south, the mountains are in the north, the cities are scattered throughout. Malaysia has this too, but the distances are shorter. You can drive from Kuala Lumpur to Penang in about 4 hours. You can get from KL to the beaches on the east coast in the same time. Thailand requires either domestic flights, which eat into your budget, or very long bus rides, which eat into your time. This geographic compactness of Malaysia means you can experience way more variety in way less time, and almost nobody factors this into their comparison. Now let's talk about the beaches, because this is where everyone assumes Thailand dominates. Phuket, Krabi, Koh Samui, Koh Phi Phi. These are some of the most famous beach destinations on Earth. Thailand's tourism board has done an incredible job marketing these places. They're beautiful, there's no denying that. But they're also crowded, overdeveloped, and honestly pretty expensive compared to what you'd expect. I went to Patong Beach and it felt like I was in a theme park version of a tropical paradise. Jet skis everywhere, touts every 5 seconds, trash on the beach, and prices that were higher than some places in Europe. Is it pretty? Sure. Is it the authentic tropical paradise experience? Not really. Then I went to the Perhentian Islands in Malaysia. Crystal clear water, pristine beaches, incredible snorkeling right off the shore, and maybe 10% of the crowds I saw in Phuket. The entire vibe was different. More relaxed, more authentic, more focused on actually enjoying nature rather than selling you banana boat rides. And the cost? My accommodation on Perhentian was literally half what I paid in Krabi for a comparable room. The food was cheaper. The activities were cheaper. Everything was cheaper. Langkawi gave me similar vibes. Incredible beaches without the overwhelming tourist infrastructure that makes you feel like you're being processed through an assembly line of experiences. But here's what really surprised me about Malaysia's beaches. The locals actually use them. In Thailand, most of the famous beaches are almost entirely tourists. In Malaysia, you'll see Malaysian families having picnics, playing in the water, genuinely enjoying their country's natural beauty alongside visitors. That creates a completely different atmosphere that feels more real, more lived in, more like you're experiencing something authentic rather than a carefully curated tourist product. And there's a reason why Malaysia's beaches haven't been as heavily marketed, which actually works in your favor as a visitor in ways you might not expect. The cultural experience is where things get really interesting, and I'm going to say something that might sound controversial. Thailand is more foreigner-friendly on the surface, but Malaysia is more genuinely welcoming once you scratch beneath that surface. In Thailand, the tourism industry is so well established that you sometimes feel like you're moving through a well-oiled machine. Everyone knows exactly what to do with tourists, which is great for convenience, but there's also a feeling that you're being kept at arm's length. You're the customer, they're the service provider, and that relationship is very clear. In Malaysia, especially outside of the main tourist zones, people genuinely seem curious about you. They want to know where you're from, what you think of their country, whether you like the food. I had a taxi driver in Malacca drive me around for an extra hour, refusing to turn on the meter, just because he wanted to show me his favorite spots in the city. He took me to a tiny coffee shop where they've been making traditional Malaysian coffee for 3 generations. He introduced me to the owner. We sat and talked about everything from football to politics to family. That driver became my friend. We still message each other. That happened multiple times in Malaysia. In Thailand, I had perfectly pleasant interactions with service providers, but they remained transactional in a way that my Malaysian experiences never did. And there's a specific cultural reason for this difference that ties into how each country has approached tourism development over the last 30 years. Religion and culture visibility is another massive difference that completely changes the feel of each place. Thailand is predominantly Buddhist, and you'll see temples everywhere, which is beautiful. The architecture is stunning, the spiritual atmosphere is real, and places like Wat Phra Kaew in Bangkok are absolutely breathtaking. Malaysia is majority Muslim, but it's also home to large Buddhist, Hindu, and Christian communities. This means that in a single city like Penang or Kuala Lumpur, you'll see mosques, temples, churches, and shrines all within walking distance of each other. The call to prayer happens 5 times a day, but you'll also hear Buddhist chants from temples and church bells on Sundays. This religious diversity creates a cultural richness that's hard to find anywhere else. During my time in both countries, I witnessed Hari Raya celebrations, Chinese New Year festivities, Deepavali lights, and Christmas decorations, all in Malaysia. Thailand has its own festivals like Songkran and Loy Krathong, which are incredible, but there's something about Malaysia's multi-religious calendar that means there's always something happening, always some celebration to witness, always some new cultural experience to discover. And the best part? Malaysians are so proud of this diversity that they're eager to share it with you. People will invite you to their open houses during festivals. Strangers will offer you food during celebrations. This cultural openness is something I experienced far more intensely in Malaysia than Thailand. Language is another huge factor that people underestimate. In Thailand, English proficiency outside of major tourist areas is pretty limited. This can make certain experiences challenging if you don't speak Thai. In Malaysia, English is widely spoken, and I mean genuinely widely spoken, not just in hotels and restaurants but by regular people on the street. This is because English is taught extensively in schools and is used in business and government. The result is that you can have deep, meaningful conversations with locals without any language barrier. You can understand the nuances of what they're telling you about their culture, their food, their history. That level of communication completely changes how you experience a country. I'm not saying Thailand's limited English is a bad thing. In fact, some travelers prefer the challenge of navigating a place where they can't rely on English. It forces you to be more creative with communication, more observant, more present. But for the average traveler who wants to really understand the place they're visiting, Malaysia's widespread English proficiency is an enormous advantage. I learned more about Malaysian history, politics, and culture in 3 weeks than I learned about Thai culture in 6 weeks, simply because I could have detailed conversations with regular people about complex topics. Safety is something I need to address because there are a lot of misconceptions here. Both countries are generally safe for travelers, but Malaysia has lower crime rates than Thailand in most categories. I'm talking actual statistics here, not anecdotes. Violent crime against tourists is rare in both countries, but petty theft and scams are more common in Thailand's tourist areas than in Malaysia's. I'm not saying Thailand is dangerous. It's not. Millions of people visit safely every year. But the data shows that Malaysia edges ahead in terms of overall safety metrics. What really struck me was how safe I felt walking around Malaysian cities at night. I walked through downtown Kuala Lumpur at midnight multiple times, through residential neighborhoods, through parks, and never once felt concerned. Women traveling alone consistently rank Malaysia as one of the safest countries in Southeast Asia. The combination of relatively low crime, good street lighting, and the presence of people out and about even late at night creates an environment where you can explore freely without constantly watching your back. Thailand has plenty of safe areas too, especially in places like Chiang Mai, but the overall safety metrics favor Malaysia, and that matters when you're planning a trip. The cost of accommodation is where things get really interesting because the gap between these countries isn't what you'd expect. Everyone thinks Thailand is the budget travel capital of Southeast Asia, and for accommodation specifically, they're not wrong. You can find hostels in Bangkok for $5 a night. You can find basic hotels in Chiang Mai for $15. Thailand has optimized its accommodation infrastructure for budget travelers over decades. Malaysia has cheaper accommodation in absolute terms in many cases, but here's the catch. The quality per dollar spent is often better in Malaysia. I stayed in a boutique hotel in Georgetown, Penang, that would have been at least twice the price in an equivalent Thai city. The room was immaculate, the staff was incredible, and the breakfast spread was better than some 4-star hotels I've stayed at in other countries. I paid $35 a night. In Bangkok, that same quality of accommodation would have easily been $60 to $70. The sweet spot for value accommodation seems to be in that $25 to $50 range, and in that range, Malaysia consistently delivered better quality, better service, and better locations than Thailand. If you're backpacking on a shoestring budget and need the absolute cheapest options, Thailand has more of those. But if you're willing to spend just a little bit more, Malaysia gives you incredible value that Thailand struggles to match. Shopping and markets deserve their own discussion because both countries are known for their markets, but they're completely different experiences. Thailand's markets like Chatuchak Weekend Market are legendary. They're massive, overwhelming, and full of everything you could possibly want to buy. The energy is incredible. The variety is mind-blowing. But it also feels very much designed for tourists in many cases. The prices start high because vendors expect you to haggle. The experience, while fun, can feel a bit performative after a while. Malaysia's markets, particularly night markets like those in Kuala Lumpur and Penang, feel more like you're shopping where locals actually shop. The prices are lower to start with because locals are the primary customers, not tourists. The haggling is less aggressive. The atmosphere is more relaxed. And you find things that locals actually use rather than tourist souvenirs designed to look local. I bought a batik shirt in Malaysia that I still wear regularly. It cost me 12 ringgit from a night market, and the quality is fantastic. In Thailand, I bought what I thought was a similar item and it fell apart after 3 washes. This isn't to say Thai markets don't have quality goods. They absolutely do. But you have to be more careful about what you're buying and where you're buying it, whereas Malaysia's markets seem to have a more consistent baseline of quality. Now let's talk about something nobody discusses, and this completely changed my perspective on both countries. The environmental policies and sustainability efforts in Malaysia are significantly ahead of Thailand's. Malaysia has been investing heavily in eco-tourism, sustainable practices, and environmental protection in ways that are really impressive. The national parks are well maintained, the marine protected areas are actually protected, and there's a genuine government effort to balance tourism with conservation. Thailand has made efforts too, especially after the famous closure of Maya Bay to let it recover, but Malaysia's approach seems more systematic and long-term focused. I visited Taman Negara, one of the world's oldest rainforests, and the infrastructure for eco-tourism was exceptional. Trained guides who actually knew the ecology, well-maintained trails that minimized environmental impact, and genuine efforts to educate visitors about conservation. The entry fees were reasonable, and you could see where the money was going in terms of park maintenance and protection. In Thailand, I visited some national parks where the infrastructure was falling apart, trash was becoming a problem, and the sheer number of visitors was clearly overwhelming the park's ability to manage them sustainably. If you care about responsible travel and want to visit places that are being protected for future generations, Malaysia is doing a better job overall. The nightlife comparison is where Thailand definitely has advantages, but even here, the story isn't as simple as you'd think. Bangkok's nightlife is world famous. Khao San Road, Sukhumvit, RCA, Thonglor, these areas are legendary for parties, clubs, and bars. Thailand's nightlife scene is bigger, more developed, and more internationally famous than Malaysia's. If you're traveling specifically for nightlife, Thailand probably wins. But Malaysia's nightlife, especially in Kuala Lumpur and Penang, is way better than most people realize. The rooftop bars in KL rival anything in Bangkok, with better views and often better cocktails at lower prices. The live music scene in Malaysia is incredible. The jazz clubs in Kuala Lumpur host world-class musicians. The indie music scene is thriving. And because Malaysia has strict alcohol regulations in some areas due to its Muslim majority, the nightlife has evolved to include more diverse entertainment options beyond just drinking. You'll find amazing late-night food spots, cultural performances, and social activities that don't center around alcohol. This creates a different vibe that some travelers actually prefer. The nightlife is more varied, more creative, and often more memorable than just another night at another club. Thailand's nightlife is more accessible and more famous, but Malaysia's offers experiences you simply won't find anywhere else. Historical sites and architecture reveal another massive difference between these countries. Both have incredible history, but they tell very different stories. Thailand's temples and palaces are magnificent. The Grand Palace in Bangkok, the ancient city of Ayutthaya, the temples of Chiang Mai, these are world-class historical sites that attract millions of visitors for good reason. But Malaysia's historical architecture tells a more complex and diverse story. In Malacca, you can see Portuguese ruins next to Dutch buildings, next to British colonial architecture, next to Chinese shophouses, next to Malay kampung houses. All in one city. All part of a layered history that spans 500 years of different colonial powers, trade routes, and cultural influences. Georgetown in Penang is a UNESCO World Heritage Site that showcases this incredible architectural diversity even more dramatically. You'll walk down streets where every building tells a different story of immigration, trade, colonialism, and cultural fusion. The blue mansions, the clan houses, the mosques, the temples, the churches, they're all squeezed into this dense urban fabric that creates a visual experience unlike anywhere else in Southeast Asia. Thailand's historical sites are more uniform in style and more focused on Buddhist and royal Thai culture, which is beautiful but less diverse. Malaysia gives you 5 different countries' worth of architectural history all existing side by side, and that creates an incredibly rich experience for anyone interested in history and culture. Healthcare and medical tourism is another area where Malaysia absolutely dominates, and this matters more than you might think even for short-term travelers. Malaysia has some of the best private hospitals in Asia. The quality of medical care rivals Western standards, and the costs are a fraction of what you'd pay in the US, Europe, or even Australia. Thailand also has excellent medical tourism facilities, particularly in Bangkok and Phuket, and they've marketed this heavily. But Malaysia's healthcare system is consistently ranked higher for quality and value. I'm not saying you should plan to get sick during your trip, but knowing that world-class medical care is available and affordable provides peace of mind. I met travelers in Malaysia who were combining tourism with dental work, eye surgery, and routine checkups because the quality was so high and the prices were so low. One guy told me he saved $8,000 on dental implants by having them done in Kuala Lumpur instead of Sydney, and he turned it into a 3-week holiday that still cost less than the dental work alone would have cost back home. Thailand offers similar services, but Malaysia's reputation in medical tourism is actually stronger among people who really research these things. Education and innovation is something nobody thinks about when comparing tourist destinations, but it reveals a lot about where each country is heading. Malaysia has been investing heavily in education, technology, and innovation. They're trying to position themselves as a knowledge economy hub. You see this in the quality of museums, science centers, and educational attractions available to visitors. The Petrosains Discovery Center in Kuala Lumpur is world-class. The Islamic Arts Museum is one of the best museums of its kind anywhere. These aren't just tourist attractions. They're genuine educational institutions that happen to be open to visitors. Thailand has great museums too, particularly around Thai history and culture, but Malaysia's focus on science, technology, and diverse cultural education creates offerings that appeal to a wider range of interests. If you're traveling with kids, or if you're interested in more than just beaches and temples, Malaysia provides educational experiences that are both fun and genuinely informative in ways that Thailand doesn't quite match. This investment in education and knowledge also means that the people you interact with in Malaysia are often incredibly well informed about global issues, ready to have deep conversations about everything from climate change to technology to international politics. After testing everything from street food to five-star hotels, from public buses to private tours, from budget activities to luxury experiences, spending months in both countries and documenting every single detail, here's what I discovered. Thailand is an incredible country. The tourism infrastructure is better developed, the nightlife is more famous, certain beaches are more iconic, and the international reputation is stronger. But Malaysia offers something that Thailand simply cannot match. A combination of diversity, value, authenticity, and genuine welcome that creates an experience that goes deeper than just ticking off tourist attractions. Malaysia gives you more cultural diversity in a smaller geographical area, better value for your money across almost every category, more authentic local experiences because tourism hasn't completely transformed every interaction, better public transportation in major cities, comparable or better food at lower prices, safer streets based on actual statistics, more linguistic accessibility through widespread English, cleaner beaches with fewer crowds, richer architectural diversity telling a more complex history, and a genuine feeling that you're experiencing something real rather than a carefully curated tourism product designed to separate you from your money as efficiently as possible. The question isn't really which country is better in absolute terms because that's subjective and depends entirely on what you're looking for. The question is which country delivers on the promise that most travelers actually want, which is authentic cultural experience, great food, beautiful nature, friendly people, and good value for money, all without feeling like you're being processed through a tourist factory. And on those specific criteria, Malaysia wins by such a large margin that it's honestly surprising more people haven't figured this out yet. Thailand will always be more famous, but Malaysia is the better secret that smart travelers are starting to discover. And the best part is that precisely because it's less famous, the experience remains more authentic, more affordable, and more genuinely welcoming than destinations that have been optimized for mass tourism. That's not going to last forever, so the time to visit Malaysia is right now, before everyone else figures out what you're about to discover for yourself.